We do have grace. People have bad days, they make mistakes, but at the end of the day, you've got to be a good cultural fit and live by those. Most importantly, we hire by them and we fire by them.
I really believe this. I've seen it happen is if you pour into people, they will literally run through a brick wall for you.
And so just making it really simple and basic of just treating people well really helps following the core values easy and leading by the core values a lot easier as well. Accountability is a decision that someone makes to do what's required of them.
I've seen so many companies and so many leaders over the years struggle with, hey, we've got these core values, but as one of our guests recently said, you can have the core values on the wall, but it's what happens in the halls that actually makes the difference.
It's almost like every time you try to solve a problem, when you get to the very root of the problem, when you're not treating the symptom, you're actually treating the illness, it's trust. As a leader, you're telling them they have to do it. If they don't do it, they're going to get in trouble. I'm not going to spend my time challenging people to do things if they're just not willing to do it. That's their decision. So what we have to do as leaders is inspire people to want to do those things.
Welcome to the Culture from the Heart podcast on the From the Heart Business Network. In a business world where employees and customers crave authenticity and trust, hosts Larry Levine and Darrell Amy are on a mission to find and showcase heart-centered executives and the companies they lead. You are about to hear an inspiring conversation with a visionary leader that's bringing heart into the workplace, empowering employees, serving their clients, and uplifting communities, all to create true success. This is Culture from the Heart. The movement starts here. Let's begin.
Welcome to Culture from the Heart. I'm your co-host, Darrell Amy, here today with Larry Levine, and we're joined in the studio by Josh Hendrickson. He's the president of Wilson Lumber Company, where they are driving growth, culture, and innovation in the building materials industry. Josh, welcome to Culture from the Heart. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate the invite. Looking forward to having a good conversation with you.
Oh, I think this is going to be a good one, Darrell.
No doubt about that. Well, as we kick this off, Josh, you know the question that every guest on Culture from the Heart answers, and that is, what does Culture from the Heart mean to you?
Well, it means a lot of things to us. Our core values are most important at Wilson Lumber, and we definitely lead with our core values. But at the end of the day, we want people to believe who we say we are. We have to be genuine, and we want people to be better off for knowing us and make them better people. And that's really what we want to do with our culture. But there's so much more to that. But that's really probably the most basic foundation of building good culture.
Hey, I like this. I know we're gonna have a great conversation. But if you can you expand upon your core values for us, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, I've been with Wilson Lumber for about 18 years now, and what I love about Wilson Lumber is that the core values are just inherent to being a good person. You see a lot of core values in companies that, may say that, we're going to be the fastest to market and we're always going to have a high level of customer service or something like that. Our core values are different. You can teach some of it, but for the most part, it's who you are inside. So our core values are treat others the way you want to be treated. Just a biblical principle right there. Get the facts. And to us, that means before you do anything, we want you to stop and make sure you have all the information. Be responsible for your actions. So if you make a mistake, it's okay. Own up to it. Just tell somebody. We don't want people to hide from it. Challenge yourself to grow. So no matter what position you're in the company, we want you to always strive to be the best at what you do. Certainly, we would like you to grow within the company. I'm a great example of that. I started from the ground up and worked my way up through the organization, but we want to inspire those people to grow and support their growth. And then the most important one, which we actually say first, but I'm saying last for a good reason, is at the end of the day, we just want you to do the right thing. And what that means to us is just do what's right and fair for everybody involved. And we really hold that one to heart the most, because if all else fails, no matter what, if you just think you're doing the right thing by everybody, chances are you're probably doing the right thing anyway. And if it's the wrong thing, it's probably not that wrong. So we like to make all of our decisions walking through those core values. And I find myself a lot of times falling back on them when I get stuck and don't know what to do. I just think about those principles and the decision usually finds its way. We recently acquired a lumberyard in Nashville, Tennessee, and they don't know our core values. And I told them that it's up to them to trust us, and that's on their timeline. I can't force that, and I'm not going to try to force it. But we're 3 weeks into this acquisition, and you can tell that, we wear our core values on our sleeve. We lead by them, and they're feeling it and they're embracing it already. It's really fantastic.
That is fantastic. And, I've seen so many companies and so many leaders over the years struggle with, hey, we've got these core values, but, as one of our guests recently said, you can have the core values on the wall, but it's what happens in the halls that actually makes the difference. And I'm curious, when it comes to actually operationalizing and bringing these core values to life, how do you see culture helping do that inside your organization?
Well, most importantly, we hire by them and we fire by them. And so if anybody wants to work at Wilson Lumber, you need to know that part of the process, we're asking interesting questions to figure out if you're going to be a cultural fit. We're creative in how we question people with questions related to their job to find out how they would handle a particular situations as it relates to our core values. But we also do hold people accountable to it. But, that we do have grace. People have bad days, they make mistakes. But at the end of the day, you've got to be a good cultural fit and live by those. And it starts from the top as leaders in the organization. We're looked at differently than other people. And so we have to live that every single day. We cannot fail. And we have to lead by example. And so in meetings, if somebody makes a statement, that this particular department never does this or never does that, well, that's not exactly true. We'll challenge them on it and say, well, maybe occasionally something goes wrong, but let's not say never. That's not fair to them. And so just making it really simple and basic of just treating people well, it really helps following the core values easy and leading by the core values a lot easier as well.
Hey, you know what I like about this? I want to key in on one word I heard you say just a few minutes ago, Josh, and that was accountability. Mm-hmm. There's going to be some people out there that view accountability through a negative set of lens. I view accountability through a positive set of lens. So what's that look like inside Wilson Lumber?
Oh, man. So I had a meeting with the sales team of this new location and told them all the great things about our company, said I've only got 15 minutes. I'm going to go and tell 350 employees about what we're doing here, why we acquired you guys, because obviously nobody knew, right? And so I told them all about the culture and how we're going to support them. We want them to be successful. But when it got to the end, I said, you're either going to be successful with us or you'll fail on your own because we're here to support you. We're going to teach you these things to help you be more successful. And then at the end of that, I said, does anybody know what accountability means? And everybody had their own different answer. And I said, listen, let me tell you what it means to me. And I learned this a couple of years ago. Accountability is a decision that someone makes to do what's required of them. And when people think about accountability, they think as a leader, you're telling them they have to do it. And if they don't do it, they're going to get in trouble. I'm not going to spend my time challenging people to do things if they're just not willing to do it. That's their decision. So what we have to do as leaders is inspire people to want to do those things. I was raised by a man that was in the Navy. My father, he was a great leader to me. And the way he raised me is when I got in trouble and did things wrong, like any good kid would do every now and then, you mess up. For me, I was afraid of disappointing him. And so my goal as a leader is if somebody messes up, I just want them to think that they're disappointing their coworkers or the customers or things like that, that there's not fear of retaliation or getting written up or something like that, that they want to do what's asked of them. And so that's what we ask of our employees is try to inspire them and give them the tools and resources to be successful. And hopefully that's their decision that they're going to make. Ultimately, if they don't, then yes, there becomes the other side of accountability that gets uncomfortable and ultimately it could end up ugly for somebody. But I find at times, if done well, if people decide that's not for them, the employees usually actually make the decision themselves, at least here.
Oh, that's great. What a fantastic definition of accountability. That one is worth putting a highlighter on. Well, before we continue, a quick word from our sponsors who help bring Culture from the Heart to life. We'll see you in just a moment. At Culture from the Heart, we believe that great leaders put their people first, leading with empathy and purpose. That's why we're thrilled to partner with Learn It, a global leader in learning for over 30 years, to bring you an exclusive offer. 45 days of free unlimited training for your team with a minimum of 5 participants.
This isn't just about skills. It's about creating a culture where your people feel valued, supported, and empowered to grow. Did you know that 94% of employees are more likely to stay at companies that invest in their development? Culture from the heart means giving your team the tools they need to thrive, not just for today, but for the future.
LearnIt's courses help your team master essential skills like communication, collaboration, and emotional intelligence, all foundations of a people-first workplace. It's about fostering resilience, connection, and growth.
Don't wait. Visit learnit.com/culture to claim your 45 days of free training and start building a workplace where your people and your business can thrive.
That's learnit.com/culture. Start enhancing your learning culture today. You're listening to Culture from the Heart. We're here with Josh Hendrickson, president of Wilson Lumber Company. Josh, we've been having a great conversation about the values of your company and how culture is bringing those to life. I know one of the things that we've talked about is in your organization, it's not just the values, but it's also the operating system that you run your company on that is helping define the culture. Tell us a little bit about that, if you would.
Well, I don't know if a lot of people have heard of EOS. You may have heard of Traction. It stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System, and it's really just a management style that people run in their company. It has structured meetings, structured in the sense that we just follow the same format every time. We start on time, we end on time. We actually rate the meetings, and if it's got a high rating, we want to get feedback from the employees to understand what it is about the meeting that made it productive. We don't want to waste people's time in meetings. And so EOS has that foundation of kind of get structured meetings, but then you go a little further and you have some meetings to talk about where you want to be in 10 years and then 3 years. And then you talk about your 1-year plan. And that plan is what you have to execute at a high level to be able to achieve those goals. And we got on EOS, oh man, I'm going to have to guess here. It's been probably around 7 years, 8 years, maybe 10. And I can tell you, one, operationally, being in the building supply business, we would have had a really difficult time getting through COVID the way we got through COVID. It helped us manage through a lot of the supply chain issues. But the other part of EOS that's really great is it gives everybody a voice. And we like to lead. I like to lead from the bottom up. And at the size of the organization that we are now with 350 employees, we've now created our version of EOS that allows the planning and the dreaming and the vision part of it to be driven from the bottom into the executive team, where we there look at the plan and we agree that is a good plan. And a lot of times those plans come from the top down, and that's okay if you want to do it that way. But I would prefer that my team create it because, one, they live it every day, and two, well, if they did it and they fail, it was their plan. We just have to give them the resources. We're going to help them achieve it. But I do believe that people embrace a world they create, a Dale Carnegie thing I learned a long time ago. And if you make them a part of it, and EOS allows you to do that, it really does help the culture. It helps you be successful in what you're doing. It puts the goals and the plans right out there for everybody to see. And I'm big on communication, and a huge win for us recently was I've gone around a couple of times to each location and personally talked with all employees, kind of got them in a little all hands meeting to tell them, like, here's what's going on, here's what we're doing. And one of the guys, he's just great. His name's LA, and he's, over 6 feet tall, huge wingspan on his arms, and he always wears sunglasses, and he walks into the break room, just flies both doors open. I said, man, what an entrance, LA, And so he comes in, he sits down, and I do my thing, and I talk about, what the company's working on. And I always tell people I'll field questions. We're an open book. And he said, I don't have a question, I got a comment. And I said, okay, what is it? And he says, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate how much you go out of your way to tell us what's going on in the company. And I know when he says me, he's talking about the entire company. But man, that hit me hard. That really meant something to me. And then I didn't even realize that he was such a culture influencer, because he said it in front of a whole room full of people, and they got to hear him say that. And so it is a lot of work to communicate, and it's even more work to over communicate. But that's what EOS makes you do. And we see the benefit in that. Everybody is a part of the process and they understand their value in that process. And that's really important to us.
Oh, this is good. Hey, Josh, I'm going to ask you to put your thinking cap on for a moment, just pre-EOS. So if you look back, because you were there pre-EOS. So pre-EOS to now, what have you noticed is the biggest difference? Because you've been on this now, you said 7 to 10 years. So what did you know prior to this? And what do you know that's different after this?
Let me speak from the sales side first. I've been in a lot of sales meetings, and most sales meetings typically run where salespeople are talking about how the company's failing them. They're not delivering this fast enough. They're not making this quick enough. We're not buying right. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. And EOS, by definition, doesn't let you do that. First of all, if you can't solve the problem, let's identify the problem. Let's make sure we got to the root of the problem as far as we can see. But after that, we're done. If we can't solve it and it's somebody else's problem to solve, we'll let them solve it and we'll carry it over to them. It has completely transformed our sales meetings into sales meetings where we plan and we collaborate, we dream, we try to figure out how to take the company to the next level. And we're much more respectful about our coworkers because as salespeople, those are the ones that make it happen. Yes, we go and we bring the deal in, but so many salespeople want to just kill it and throw it over the fence and tell somebody else to cut it up. You just can't do it that way. It's very complex and we manufacture a lot, and it becomes even more complex when you manufacture because you're setting them up to fail if you don't plan accordingly. And so we teach our team and we have conversations in these EOS meetings about how to bring those deals in and bring them in the right way and provide all the information to our operational partners so that they can be successful. Because if everybody's not successful, then we're going to fail our customer. And that's the worst thing that can happen. But EOS has been instrumental in that cross-departmental communication. And now more than ever, I feel like I can say we're in a really healthy spot when it comes to that. I can tell you this for everybody that listens. I went on a tour once of Radio Flyer, and the guy that led the tour, a guy named Robert Pison, it's in Chicago. He's a third generation wagon maker. And I'm telling his story, so I have to be careful about putting words in his mouth. But he talked about what it was like to, grow up in that family, and that when his father retired, that he wanted to be in the business. And he said, when you were the son of an Italian immigrant, this is what you do. And so his grandfather immigrated from Italy and built wagons, since that's what his dad did. But his dad wasn't really passionate about it, what I gather, by the time he came along. And so he said the culture wasn't where he wanted it, and he had to work to get it there. And so he made some really difficult decisions. And we asked him how long it took for him to get the culture to where he wanted it. And it was interesting. It took 9 years. 9 years to get the culture there. I met with somebody recently that is thinking about, or they acquired a business and they have a great culture in their company. And I said, they talked about wanting to introduce their culture. And I asked the guy, how long do you think it'll take to even get your culture into the company to where you feel like they're going to embrace these? So I think we can get it there in 3 to 6 months. I said, man, it could be 3 to 6 years. You can't force this, right? It has to be organic. And at Wilson Lumber, hope I'm not getting too off topic about the question, but at Wilson Lumber, this culture has gotten much bigger than Rob Wilson, the Wilson family. It always existed. It wasn't written down 75 years ago. There wasn't a culture plan 75 years ago, but we've always been this way. And Rob's been really intentional about it. But truthfully, it's bigger than me. It's bigger than the leadership team, but we have to be the engine to keep firing this thing to make sure that it lives and breathes. But it's the whole company now, and it's taken us quite some time to get there. That's a fact. Yeah.
Incredible. Well, stay tuned. In just a few moments, we're going to continue this incredible conversation about the power of culture with Josh Hendrickson. We'll see you in a moment. At Culture from the Heart, we know that hiring the right salespeople and leaders for your company is about more than just resumes. It's about finding individuals who have what it takes to succeed. That's why we're excited to offer candidate assessments from Selling from the Heart to help ensure you make great hiring decisions for your sales team.
Based on data from surveys of over 2.2 million sales professionals and sales leaders, These assessments benchmark your candidates against the core skills of top-performing salespeople and leaders. You'll gain unparalleled insight into their potential, uncovering whether they have the mindset, abilities, and behaviors needed to thrive in your organization.
It's not just about filling a role. It's about ensuring that every sales hire aligns with your culture and contributes to your success. Don't leave your next hire to chance.
Visit sellingfromtheheart.net/hiring and discover how candidate assessments can help you build a winning team. Make your next hire with confidence because your business deserves the best.
That's a big investment. I know a lot of leaders listening in are this long game feels like a really big investment. What's your advice in terms of the return on that investment? Because there's a lot of heavy lifting to change a culture.
Oh man, how to even attack a question like that? I mean, certainly you can talk about turnover rates, and you can talk about efficiencies and things like that. All the measurable things. I mean, you're going to see improvement overall, I believe, across the board. Especially back to the OS, especially if you're using the OS and you're tracking the KPIs, the right KPIs. You'll see that in real time. It does take a long time, but the real gain out of all this is seeing your employees flourish. If the intent behind your company is to build a company that pours into people, that grows and develops people, if you truly believe that, then the culture is the most important thing. All the other things kind of fall into place. I know that's kind of a high level way to look at it. It's not always reality, but at the end of the day, they really do. You build teams that care about the company, that start to treat the company like it's their own business, and they start to own every process as if that was their dollar that was being lost, or their dollar that was being invested or spent. And we've been seeing that. We have a team that's that way, and it takes new hires a few months, but they start to come around, they start to see it, and they truly embrace it. And I think that's the real win.
I got to go back to something that you said, and I really believe this. Use the phrase "pour into people," and I really believe this. I've seen it happen. Is if you pour into people, they will literally run through a brick wall for you. But at Wilson Lumber, what does pouring into people? What's this look like as it relates to how you're building culture? Because people can sense when you're pouring into them, but what's that look like?
It's knowing when to be a coach and a mentor. There's times when you need to delegate, and there's times you need to coach, and times we need to mentor. I had an employee that he was reporting to somebody that wasn't really pouring into him. He wasn't speaking his love language and giving him some praise and some direction. And there was a project I needed to get across the finish line, and I had time to take him on. I said, tell you what, come report to me. But if you report to me, I went back to expectations and accountability. Here's the deal. If you're going to come work for me, this is what you got to do. And so he felt a little lost in his role at the time. Felt like he was treading water a little bit. And so when he came to me, there's a lot of meetings about what his goals and ambitions are, what makes him tick. We do disc profile. So I pulled out his disc. Today, the 17 employees at our Nashville lumberyard, I sent them my disc profile, told them we're going to be testing them because you need to know how I operate, how I communicate. So we sit down together. We talk about how do we communicate, how do we receive information, how to motivate each other. And so we learned how to speak to each other a little bit better. And once we did, then it just became giving him little wins along the way. And I'm big on celebrating the small wins, because you start celebrating the small wins, they turn into big wins really quickly. And the other thing that I'm really big on that I poured into him was building his brand. And I tell people all the time, I'm going to position you to build your brand. And everybody in the company works for Wilson Lumber. We have a brand, but I have a brand. You have a brand. You have a brand within the organization, and that's how people receive you. That's how they view you. And I want to build you up. And so it was finding ways to take his small wins and then sharing it with the rest of the company and celebrating what he did and how he was able to solve these tasks and making people's jobs easier, because that was the project he was working on. And he just ran with it. And I found that sometimes as leaders, you become the tree in the way. It's our job to cut down the tree to move the mountain. And an intuitive leader is really good at figuring out when it's time to get out of the way. I'm guilty of being in the way a lot around here, but I got out of the way, and it was the right time for him. And he's really taken off. And I think that's important too, is letting them know how much you trust them, you trust what they do, and then supporting that. And you will find that people will live up to the challenge, and they will probably show you a whole lot more than you even thought that they could do.
Wow, what a beautiful story, and what a beautiful heart behind all of this. Josh, as we wrap this conversation up, if you could say one thing to the leaders who are listening into this that you think would be super helpful in developing their culture, what would you share? Trust
your people. You got to trust them. Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. Trust is the foundation of everything. And if you don't trust your people, then they're going to see right through it. They're going to know that you're not genuine. Yeah, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I always think it's about the unspoken. This has everything to do with trust. I think as a leader, you got to uncover the unspoken words that people really aren't saying, but they're thinking about.
Well, the foundation of trust begins with being vulnerable too. And you've got to show some vulnerability as a leader. And if you don't, people won't open up to you. I've seen people, they weren't mean to people, but they just had a wall up at all times, and they trusted them, but they still had that wall up. And I could tell that their team noticed that. And you got to take the walls down. You've got to be vulnerable. We're all human here. We make mistakes. We have bad days. And I think you get more respect from people when they see that side of you as well.
Beautiful. Well, Josh, thank you so much for investing in all of us today. You're a true inspiration, and this has been incredibly powerful. Thank you.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
No, it's our pleasure. Learned a lot. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah. What a great conversation, Larry, and a lot of nuggets in there about, I love just letting things bubble up from the bottom as leaders, all the way to the strategy of the company. Super powerful.
And I think that there's something to be said, and this goes back to the old, Peter Drucker quote, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
There's one thing I did catch. The sparkle in Josh's eye talking about culture.
Mm-hmm.
That's a true leader. I would just ask you, when you talk about your company and the culture, look in front of the mirror as you're talking about it. Does your eyes sparkle when you talk about it? I caught that one.
You could definitely see that, and definitely passion there, and the results follow. And I think that is so beautiful. Well, thank you for joining us today. And thank you to everybody who is sharing this podcast. We're on a mission to inspire leaders by talking to forward-thinking leaders, heart-centered leaders, passionate leaders with a sparkle in their eye. So if you know one of those leaders is CEO of an established company, go to culturefromtheheart.com. You can nominate them to be on the show. We'd love to hear their story. But we believe that culture is the heartbeat of every organization. And as Josh has reminded us today, this is about bringing and caring about other people and caring about their success and looking at what's going to help them thrive. So thank you for joining us today on Culture from the Heart. Until next time, lead with your heart and watch your culture thrive.
Thank you for joining us on this journey to discover heart-centered leaders shaping extraordinary company cultures. To access a leader guide with notes from this week's episode, simply click the link in the show notes or visit us at www.culturefromtheheart.com. Do you know a CEO who's built a culture from the heart? We'd love to hear their story. Head over to www.culturefromtheheart.com and click the Nominate Your CEO button. Until next time, remember, great cultures start with the heart.